श्री सच्चिदानंद Sadguru Sainath Maharaj ki jai. Sri Sai Baba the Master by Param Pujya Acharya Sri Ekkirala Bharadwaj Garu. Chapter 1. The Master Calls Me. My quest for truth was awakened by the tragic demise of my nephew in 1955 on the occasion of my initiation ceremony, that is, Sacred Thread ceremony. Now I see in retrospect that it was indeed an initiation. The initial heartbreak had left, and in its wake, several fundamental questions arose in me. Is there a supreme spirit? What is the nature? How can we contact it? What is life? What is death? Is there a soul? Why hasn't man found a way out of death? What is time? And such others. The search went on unanswered till 1960. One evening in that year, when I was taking a stroll, something mysterious occurred somewhere deep in me, and all the questions vanished in a trice, and peace prevailed. These questions seemed out of place, of no value any longer. A book on Zen, which came to my mind quite unasked for, contained a description of inner illumination or satori, which came nearest to my experience. It was a pleasant surprise and a promise. The quest took on a richer hue. In 1963, my elder brother Sri Ekirala Veda Vyas invited me to join him to visit to Shirdi. Though I had little faith in saints at that time, I consented just to give him my company. On the 8th of February, we reached Shirdi at sunset and we went straight to the Samadhi Mandir to attend the Aarti. The deep faith that shone on the faces of the congregation for the saint who left off his physical frame nearly half a century ago was surprise to me. Soon after, the devotees dispersed and the shrine was mostly empty. My brother showed me the tomb at close quarters and told me that Sri Baba's mortal remains were kept in it. That being my first close look of a tomb, I was shocked. My first reaction that being my first close look of a tomb, I was shocked. My first reaction was to imagine in what a putrefied condition the body must have been. The marble structure of the tomb and the profuse incense that was burnt there made me suppose that it was intended to keep out any stench that might possibly leak out. The thought was revolting and nauseating. I at once took leave of my brother and slept in the room, unable even to relish food in the wake of the shock. Next morning, a keen appetite woke me up and I made straight to the Madras hotel. As I passed before Samadhi Mandir, I found that the morning aarti was over and the place was almost vacant. The sight of the marble statue over the Samadhi attracted my attention. I wanted to have a close look at the form that continues to charm so many devotees. I stepped in and stood at a little distance from the statue and looked at it. It is quite lifelike, and I felt that the saint must have looked precisely like that. The sculptor must have been divinely inspired in capturing that mysterious smile and the inward look. The look captured my gaze. What does his face, especially his look and smile, indicate of his attitude? Was he elated that so many visited him to pay their homage, adore, and worship him? Or was he overwhelmed with the compassion for them? Or in that mood, was he oblivious of his separate existence, his gaze fixed on the divine mystery, the one omnipresent spirit? Or was it a look of recognition of that ancient spirit of his contacts with those teeming crowds that had contacted him through their countless previous lives? And was that smile of reunion pregnant with his joy of their future possibility of reaching the spiritual summit? Or was he just oblivious of all this, lost in his ceaseless contemplation of that one spirit in his at one ment? And is the mysterious Mona Lisa smile a manifestation of that peace which passeth understanding, or is there a possibility that at a higher level of consciousness all these attitudes could coexist without the one interrupting the other? This last thought flashed with a particular intensity, and my spirit leapt forth to comprehend how, in that state, he was viewing all this existence. Is the universe of myriad forms an image projected in his consciousness? And am I, then too, a thought in his mind? And are all these my thoughts parts of it? The intuition took off and wafted my being into far off states. I knew of nothing else. My being was still taught with a particular illumination of, and my thoughts were both existent and non existent. I am aware how absurd these thoughts must look to anyone. These words must look to anyone. But what else can they be when I verbalize what cannot be conveyed? Quite some time lapsed in that timeless moment, and I was knocked back into normal awareness by what then felt to me like a rude knocking on my shoulders. It was then that I realized I was seated and that my eyes were shut, that my cheeks were wet with half dried tears. The shrine was quite noisy and crowded. I saw my brother patting me gently and asking, "You are still seated here? Had your bath and breakfast? It's almost lunchtime. It's better to finish your lunch." His words were quite audible, but I found it hard to catch the sense as though I was abruptly awakened from deep sleep. It was quite disturbing even to endeavor to understand the words and still more to respond, the spirit being totally unwilling to be called out from the heart of peace. It was much easier to just obey what he said. It was nearly 4 hours since I stepped into shrine, which was getting crowded as the time for noon arti was nearing, and the devotees were queuing up for finishing Abhishek. We walked down to the dining hall, but to me it was as though the walk were just a vivid reverie. My mind was all set on sinking back into the state of peace and bliss from which it was aroused and with which the connection was not yet completely snapped. It was quite a task to pay particular attention to things and persons. This mood was persistent and had quite never quite left me during the brief stay of 2 days at Shirdi. Perhaps my brother had found out that something unusual was happening to me. "You may go over here again later if you want, but now we have to go back," he said, and we were back. The significant thing, as I see it now in retrospect, is that the spiritual connection with that deeper level of being continued for months after our return from our Shirdi. My mind, when it now and then relapsed into normal awareness, quite instinctively identified that deeper level of being with Baba. Mostly, I was in a continuous state of ineffable peace and quiet, and the normal activities of the day were powerless to interrupt it. Days passed as a continuous moment of timelessness. It was as though all things around, including my body, were all parts of a whole which is conscious and aware. Whenever the world around had plucked me into the very everyday reality, my spirit once again, at the earliest possible, was summoned back to its pristine state by the vivid appearance of the marble image at Shirdi before my mind's eye. And then objects and creatures all around would seem to be crystallizations of a pervasive consciousness. The experience was accompanied by a remarkable change in my physical constitution. My lean frame got filled in with the flesh to robustness, and I was brimming with energy which was not lowered by late hours of reading at night or by missing my meal now and then. There was a strong urge to walk and walk almost endlessly through most of the day, and I was not tired. My mind was engrossed in the blissful peace and was not stirred by the traffic on the road. My mind too seemed to have grown unusually penetrating, for the most vexatious of metaphysical questions got cleared in a wink, and there seemed practically nothing which it could not comprehend. Of a knowledge concerning my friends who were far off, or of the thoughts that passed through my associates' minds, broke in, and then I was no less surprised at it than they. Strangely enough, the pervasive peace was shared by all those around me. It was definite that my life turned a corner. The steady current of this experience has ever continued, sometimes quite vivid and sometimes a little less so. After 3 or 4 months followed my second visit to Shirdi. This time no such spectacular experience occurred, but I keenly felt that I was visiting a saint who has been my guiding spirit through lives, that he was somehow connected with my initiation into the quest for knowledge 8 years earlier. There was only an intense personal attachment to the Master and the sense of not having the good fortune of seeing him in flesh and blood in this life. What could have happened then? Now that I cannot hope for this, could I at least see any living saint? What would be his impact on me? This was the object of my prayer at Baba's Samadhi Mandir. The response was prompt and striking, as he has always been characteristic of him. During the years that followed, I could come into close contact with numerous saints and bask in their blessings. Mother Anusuya Devi of Jillalamudi, Sri Rangana Babu, a great Ramabhakta of Guntur, the late Avadhuta Swami of Chirala, the Guru of Chintapalli Forest of Sileru area, Sri Swami Purnananda of Sri Salem, his Guru Sri Rakhadi Baba, who stayed at Ganeshpuri, Sri Satyasai Baba, the two Balayogis of Mummidivaram, the senior Shankaracharyaji of Kanchi, Sri Ma Anandamayi, Sri Akhandananda Saraswati of Mathura, the recluse saints of Kalahasti and Kadapa, the recluse woman saint of Chivatam, Sri Samartha Narayana Maharaj of Harihar, and the saint of Pundi. Besides, I had darshan of some famous devotees of Sri Sai Baba. I saw others like Mother Revati Amma of Madras and Sri Gulab Maharaj of Nagpur. It is not possible to detail here my experiences with these saints, but one significant feature in all these was I could win their gracious attention only after specifically praying to Sri Sai Baba for the same. Baba was thus once more proving three things simultaneously. He is still alive in spirit and would gladly bless us with the best at our hearty praying, that he is still one with the being of saints of today, even as he was when he lived in flesh and blood, that he can be competent Guru or Master Samartha Sadguru to his ardent devotee even today. For a time, a few friends told me that I was on a saint gathering spree and not stabilized on anyone. I was not affected by this criticism. Now, in retrospect, I am happy to find that fortunately my faith in Baba, if anything, grew deeper and has been constant all through. Baba's invisible hand was leading me to act accordingly to the scriptural injunction. मधुलुब्धो यथा भृङ्गः पुष्पाश् पुष्पान्तरं व्रजेत् ज्ञानानलुब्धस्तथा शिष्यः गुरोर्गुर्वन्तरं व्रजेत्. Just as the bee which is fond of honey moves from flower to flower, the disciple who is fond of wisdom goes from master to master, Guru, Sri Guru Charitra. I shall mention a few instances of Baba's grace during these years. In 1968, I resigned my job and lived at the ashram of a mother for a year. After that, on a specific indication from Baba, I left the ashram and settled in my present job here at Vidyanagar. At first, I was very much disappointed with the life here, which had stifled many spiritual longings. There was none who shared my aspirations, none to join me in satsang. Life looked dreary and barren, even like the rocky soil here. I earnestly prayed to Baba either to take me to a place where I could have satsang or to secure it here for me. Within a few months, there was Baba's response in the most seemingly casual manner. A Christian boy, a student, started criticizing me for adoring a human being like Sai Baba. A discussion ensued which went on for days and drew large number of students to participate in it. Out of this, a small group took shape and decided to have weekly satsang, devotional or spiritual gathering on Thursdays for bhajan. The bhajan, by the grace of Baba, has been going on for the last 9 years without interruption, even for 1 week. The situation was so molded that I happened to rent the house myself. Baba's grace has been manifesting in the most miraculous ways to the participants in the bhajan. One Thursday after bhajan, Baba inspired me to declare to the participants, if all of us pray with all our hearts, great saints would come here and bless us instead of our going to them. We are sure to come in contact with great saints. Baba has been keeping up his word as illustrated below. In 1971, I started for Mammidivaram in East Godavari district, Andhra Pradesh, to have darshan of Sri Balayogi on the holy Shivratri day. On the way, I stopped at Guntur to Sri Rangana Babu, a great devotee of Sri Rama, and invite him to visit Vidyanagar. I shall seek the permission of my Guru, Sri Rama, and if he permits me, I shall go to Vidyanagar. It is not in my hands to say yes or no. Many eminent people came from Hyderabad, Madras, and other places to take me there, but generally Sri Rama does not permit me to go, he replied. I said, I shall see you again on my way back from Mammidivaram. You please ask Sri Rama. If he is pleased with the devotion of the students at Vidyanagar, he would agree and took leave of him. All that I could do was to pray to Baba. He demonstrated while he was in flesh that he was all the saints and gods. So he could inspire Sri Rangana Babu through Sri Rama to visit my place. Again, the response was striking. On the third day, I saw Sri Rangana Babu on my return journey. He was the first to greet me gleefully. Sir, Sri Rama has permitted to go with you. Ranganna, he said, the students at Vidyanagar are doing bhajan with devotion. Ranganna, he said, the students at Vidyanagar are doing bhajan with devotion. Go see them. And he gave me grapes to be distributed to the devotees. So saying, he at once started with me. He had spent 2 days at Vidyanagar, stepped on a plot of the land and said, here would spring up an ashram and a mandir. Great yogis will visit the place and great religious ceremonies like yagnas will be performed here. Another instance. On the evening of 26th July 1975, we were doing satsang at my house. I was reading out to the gathering the chapter entitled Sri Sai is in All Saints from my present book on Baba. Just then, we had finished the reading the Leela miracle of Baba's transfiguration as Sri Guru Golap Swami to one Mule Shastri. A small van stopped before my house and someone there announced, the Swami has come. When I came out, I saw the saint Sri Samarth Narayan Maharaj of Harihar. He entered our satsang hall, sat on my mat, Darbhasana, and blessed us with his presence for full 2 hours. He too said, here will spring up a fine mandir and great souls will come and stay here. Sri Narayan Maharaj is the 12th incumbent of the seat at Harihar and he belongs to the tradition of Sri Samarth Ramadas, the Guru of Shivaji. The same saint afforded us another proof that the strength of devotion of our group was mainly responsible for the arrival of great saints to these parts. From December 11th, 1975 to December 23rd, 1975, he performed a yagna at Vakadu, 4 miles from here. Our group visited him there every day. On the 20th, a member of our group was meditating in his presence. The Swami then told him, as you people here are doing dhyana and performing satsang and bhajan with devotion, I happened to come here from afar to perform this yagna. The next day, when his disciples were dispersing the crowds, he said to them, the disciples of Bharadwaja would be coming here. Let them sit here and meditate. Henceforth, none from our group were ever asked by his disciples to clear off from that place. Now, a few instances to show how Sri Sai Baba had established his claim over me as his own. Sometime before I came to Vidyanagar, that is when I was at ashram of a mother, I happened to go to Naimisharanya to take darshan of Sri Ma Anandamayi, who was conducting a Bhagavata Saptaha there. The Swamiji, who was giving the exposition in the course of his talk one day, said that only a living sage can lead us to enlightenment or liberation, and that one who has shed his body, however great, can at best bless us with material welfare only. This raised a question regarding the efficacy of my devotion to Sri Sai, though I did not give it up. Some time after my arrival at Vidyanagar, an old student of mine in Hyderabad visited me and invited me to his house in Pune on my next visit to Shirdi. I casually agreed. I subsequently visited Shirdi with the idea of staying there for a week, but from the second day of my visit to Shirdi, all my mind was strongly driving me to visit Pune. Finding it useless to confine my body at Shirdi any longer, I at last arrived there. My friend was away at his office and I resolved to go round the city before he returned home. On the way, the sight of a flower shop made me inquire whether there was any great saint in Pune. A gentleman told me that there was a Gulavani Maharaj, a disciple of Sri Vasudevananda Saraswati alias Sri Tembe Swami. I at once visited him with a simple offering. When he saw me prostrating, he addressed me, oh, you are the child of Sai Baba. Thrilled at this uncanny knowledge, I expressed my doubts about the efficacy of my devotion to Sri Sai, a saint who had shed his physical body more than half a century ago. He said that Sri Sai Baba is not a mere saint but a manifestation of Lord Dattatreya, that he has been guiding seekers spiritually even after his Mahasamadhi and even manifesting himself physically before some, that I was on the right path and I need no other guide. Sometime later, a saint of about 55 years appearing in my dream, though his form Sometime later, a saint of about 55 years appeared in my dream. Though his form was quite different, I had the vivid feeling that he was Sai Baba. He embraced me and said thrice, "Why worry that you don't have a guru? I am here." Again, during the holy Navratri days of 1970, I happened to visit Puttaparthi with another friend, Mr. E.V. Krishna Rao. As at that time I was in a hospital laid up with typhoid, the friend took me all the way from Chirala in a taxi at great expense to himself. On our arrival, they were told that Sri Satya Sai Baba does not grant interviews during those 9 days. I was anxious for my friend who incurred heavy expense for the trip. I prayed to Sri Sai Baba of Shirdi that very day of Sri Satya Sai Baba granted us an interview. That very day, Sri Satya Sai Baba granted us an interview along with two Nepalis and two foreigners. He told me, "Sri Sai Baba's grace is ever with you. You need fear nothing." I cannot refrain from mentioning another experience. On the holy day of Shivaratri in 1975, I had finished my worship. At about 8:30 a.m., I had a strong urge to take darshan of one great saint, Sri Venkaya Avadhuta, at a village named Golagamudi. I called one of my students, Ramakrishna, whose father was a devotee of this saint, and asked him to join me. Ramakrishna said that the saint does not stay in any place for more than 3 or 4 days and that we had better inquire whether he was in that village. But I prayed to Sai, "Baba, I want to take darshan of your manifestation, Sri Venkaya Swami. Please bless me to have his darshan and special blessings." I burned license sorry I burned incense before Baba's picture and left for that village. On our way, another bus which was to take us there crossed. We got into it. In it there were few sadhus who carried a stringed musical instrument which belonged to the saint. They told us that the holy one came to Nellore some 4 days earlier and he decided to stay there for full 10 days, but at 8:30 a.m. that day he suddenly started for Golagamodi. He reached there just half an hour before our arrival. Owing to the sudden change of his plans, no other devotees visited him and we too sat in his presence for full 6 hours. At the end of it, he blessed us. I will conclude this chapter with an instance of how Baba has been actively guiding me in material life also. Owing to my keen reflection on joy and sorrow in life, I came to a decision to remain a celibate all my life and dedicate all my energies to the spiritual quest. Even my father has stopped pressing me to get married. This was before I stayed at the ashram. At that time, I used to visit a recluse saint at a nearby town, Chirala. He was a perfect avadhuta. One day when I saw him, he gave me a old dark nylon sari with which some generous soul probably covered him the previous night to protect him from the winter cold. He told me to cover myself with it and keep it with me. Some friends later remarked that the saint indicated that I should get married, but I was not convinced. After a year or so, I happened to visit a celibate saint who lived in the thick forest of Chintapalli range, who explicitly told me that I should get married in view of my karmic ties since a former life and that I had better clear them off. After he attained Nirvana, shedding his physical frame, I had a doubt. The saint was known to my father and my eldest brother. Could he have counseled me to oblige my father? But there was no way of ascertaining the truth. In 1973, I visited Shirdi to pray for explicit guidance in the matter. I stayed there for a week, spending all my time in circumambulating the Samadhi tomb, devout study of Baba's life and prayer. On the seventh day, which happened to be the holy Vijayadasami Dasara festival, the anniversary of Sai Baba's Mahasamadhi was being celebrated. I finished my chosen routine by midnight and I waited near Baba's Samadhi for half an hour, but I did not receive any message from Baba. Tired with the daily routine, I relaxed in the nearby park. Within 5 minutes, a gentleman approached me and said, "One great man is staying with me in my room. He is one Puran Dalai from Bombay. He wants you to see him. I am Roy from Calcutta." I was at first surprised by the unsolicited greeting. I even suspected that probably some smuggler must have mistaken me from my midnight walk for one of his own tribe and thus was seeking to establish contact with me. However, I wished to see what it was and I at once went to his room, which was nearby. An elderly man of about 55 or 60 was standing before a room in which there was no light. At my approach, he entered the room, switched on the light, and turned around. I was amazed to find before me a man who seemed an exact replica of the forest dwelling Swami of Chintapalli, who was no more. Only when this gentleman addressed me in Hindi did I realize that this was a different man. He said, "Sai Baba appears before me in my dhyana. Today I paid my respects to the Samadhi and sat there in our room for meditation. Baba appeared before me and said, 'One of my devotees is doing pradakshina, circumambulation to my Samadhi for a message from me. Convey this my message to him at once.' Saying thus, he gave me a message. I told Baba that it was not possible for me to identify the said devotee in that crowd, and so I said I would go and sit in the nearby park and I would deliver the message to whosoever comes there within 5 minutes of my sitting there. Should no one come, it is not my business. So you should impel the said devotee to go over there within that time." So saying, I sat in the park. You came within that time, and so I had sent for you and came here. Here we can have privacy. Now, young man, what is your problem for which you want a message from Baba? I am sorry to say so, but I do not want to share my problem with anyone except Baba. If you tell me the message which he wished you to convey me, I shall see. If you if you tell me the message which he wished you to convey me, I shall see whether it is connected with my problem, and if so, I shall accept it. The old man smiled and said, "You wish to know what Baba has to say regarding the question of your marriage. Baba wants me to tell you that you should get married and that thereby your karmic ties would be worked out." Yes, that was the issue I had in my mind, I confessed. "After your marriage, both of you should come to Shirdi and serve Baba for at least a week. That's Baba's pleasure," he added. Accordingly, my marriage took place on the 6th March 1975, and on 14th of April, my wife and I visited Shirdi and stayed in service for the 2 weeks. Jai Sai Master.